Hey Glendale Church family, I haven't always been the bestest of friends. Now what I mean by that is that I've come to realize, especially as I've gotten older, that I used to be a pretty terrible friend. When I was much younger, I had developed a characteristic that I'm not too proud of, but basically it's being a people pleaser. I had low self-esteem and I felt like that I had no friends and I couldn't fit in with people, but I had discovered that if I simply made people happy, then I could feel validated, accepted, and I could actually belong. Now, it got worse when I was in a dating relationship because I would get so fixated on spending time in making the person that I was dating at that time happy, I would start to neglect all of my other relationships with my friends, even the bestest of friends. Specifically growing up, I had two very close friends that we would do everything together. But whenever I had gotten into a relationship, and specifically there was one relationship that I had gotten into, I had grown so distant from them that basically I had cut off my connections with them. Now, after the relationship had ended, I had come to the point where I wanted to rekindle my friendship once again. But honestly, I felt so embarrassed and I didn't know if I could go back. I essentially had betrayed them and had left them for something at that time was completely meaningless. How could I go back to them? How could they ever even accept me? Now, to keep a long story short, I mustered up the courage to go ask my friends for forgiveness. And I knew it was going to be a long shot, but I thought I would try anyway. And to my surprise, they accepted me back with open arms. They showed me a forgiveness that I truly did not deserve. Why? Well, basically, they just said, "Tim, how could we forget our friendship?" Now, today's word to remember is betrayal. Luke 22, we see the end of Jesus' ministry here on earth, and we see the scenes of Jesus being betrayed. We see the scenes of the Last Supper, and we see Jesus making it very clear that he was going to go to the cross. He even makes it clear that Peter, one of his friends, would betray him. After the prayer on the Mount of Olives and the arrest of Jesus, we find this gut-wrenching scene where Peter denies Jesus 3 times. Verse 60 says, "But Peter said, 'Man, I do not know what you are talking about.' And immediately while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. And Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, how he had said to him, 'Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times.' And he went out and wept bitterly." You see, Peter had betrayed his best friend, and it deeply hurt Peter, but not just Peter. It deeply affected and hurt Jesus as well, as he looked to Peter and as the rooster crowed. Yet, I think there's an important lesson that we can learn as we look to the mistake of Peter. If the story ended here, of course, this would be a depressing ending. But instead, at the end of this betrayal, we actually find hope. And that hope was found in Jesus' willingness to forgive. You see, many times in our own walk, we find ourselves betraying Jesus by falling into sin. And it doesn't matter what kind of sin, whatever sin we fall into, we are ultimately betraying him. Yet the hope and the lesson that we find is that even if we fall into sin, we can always get back and be forgiven by Jesus.